Hey, what's up, my friends? Welcome. I know my voice, I know. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I brought a partner in for this video, and she's going to help me out because my voice is clearly shot. But we're going to talk about energy vampires and like letting go of relationships that are holding you down, that are stifling your forward progress towards whatever, your advancement in life, as well as your own search for happiness. This can be one of the most difficult things to do because there's oftentimes a lot of time investment into a relationship, but you start to awaken, you start to see it so differently, and there becomes aspects of particular people and their behavior and just the relationship in general that you can't ignore the fact that it's affecting you in a very undesirable way, but then that leaves you like with the guilt of leaving. So we're going to talk about that sort of, and we don't have anything planned. We're just going to kind of discuss that because me and her have done a lot of that throughout our awakening, right?
Yeah. I had a friend for a very long time who we grew up together basically, and so she was like one of those people that just every time she'd leave we'd be like, oh, thank God she's gone, because she would just drain our energy and like occupy our life so intensely that we could it was like, oh my God, finally, after like a year of him bitching every time she'd come over, he'd be like, oh God, she's coming over again, I'm leaving, you know? And then finally I just asked myself, if I met this person now, would she be someone that I would be friends with? And I said no. I was honest.
Hell
and I said, definitely not. I would not be friends with someone like that if I had just met her. And so I didn't cut her off completely, but you know, we just sort of drifted apart. I stopped putting in the effort, and then so did she. So it sort of ended up naturally falling away, kind of, without any like mess. But there are sometimes relationships where you do have to like just say, I can't be friends, or we can't do this anymore, just because it makes it easier than having a natural falling away, right? Yeah,
it seems to me, and just to kind of like clarify why we're like laughing, is this girl, her friend, was a freaking like Adderall fiend. She took so much freaking Adderall. It's very intense stimulant, and she would come over and just freaking suck your head, just talk a zillion miles a minute, and like you'd leave and be like, oh. Aside from that, it wasn't that we abandoned a drug addict friend. She just was again a person that we didn't match, or she didn't match with, and whatever. Anyways, what were we saying now?
Well, how
yeah, I got you, boss. Yeah, so I find that usually when a relationship becomes like not a match, it's usually like one person insisting on holding it together. Sometimes it's you, and if you decide to kind of like she did, I'm not going to put any much energy into it, and therefore it's going to like fade out. That's kind of an easy break. I've had that as well. Sometimes it's the other person, and you have to be a little bit more blunt about it because they're the one kind of holding on. And sometimes you really do have to kind of speak up, and you gotta, obviously, in our experience, I've never once said, we're not gonna be friends, we're not on the same path, you're toxic. Never. God, no. It's been like, come up with a clever way of severing the relationship in a way that's creates the amount of distance that you're looking for, and
right, without hurting the other person in this, you know, in the same sense.
It can be common to resent them, like her friend. Like you were her friend for a long time. She's always been that way, but all of a sudden you're seeing her differently,
right? Yeah.
And it's not cool to be like, no, I can see who you really are, and you rub me the wrong way. So you know what? I don't. You know, it can be, a resentment can build, but it's almost like you're resenting yourself because you're the one who created such a deep bond with such an unideal relationship fit, you know?
Right. And well, in that particular situation, the bond was not there. It was a pretend thing that, you know, she sort of created, and then I just kind of took that on as like, oh yeah, we're best friends. And then I realized, like, no, we're really not, because it's a one-sided friendship sort of thing. It made it easier for me to sort of, you know, cut ties. But there, you know, there are people like that are family members that you can't cut ties with, that might be dragging you down and holding you back from certain growth, that you'll have to, I mean, you obviously can't separate yourself from certain family members, but you can protect yourself from their, like, negative energy, you know, when you're around them.
Yeah. I think you always have a little, sorry, my voice, a wiggle room as to what you can do. You're never truly stuck. While
Right.
sometimes, like you said, you have a family member that's like really, you know, negative and always telling you you're not good enough, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you can't never talk to them again and say we're done, because that would be just too, they wouldn't understand. It'd be a little bit too harsh, and you don't want to do that. That's understandable.
Right.
But you can create some semblance of distance. You can stop coming around as often, or you can just be very honest about your expectations. Like, listen,
this is unacceptable. I had to do that with my mom.
I'm gonna say, you sound like you sound like you have a real life.
Well, yeah, I had to do that with my mom. I had to tell her, like, I'm not going to allow you to treat me this way, and if you want to continue to treat me this way, then I'm not going to be in your life, which was incredibly challenging because it was my mom, and this was, you know, many years ago, and I was still like,
sorry.
Oh, and I was still like, you know, finding my way in life, and she was not treating me fairly, I guess, if, you know, to put it nicely. And you know, I had to stick up for myself because nobody else would, and that you might find yourself in that particular situation, and it's okay to do that. It's okay to say, hey mom, hey dad, hey brother or sister or whoever, your behavior towards me is unacceptable, and I'm not going to tolerate it anymore, because you deserve to have good relationships in your life. You deserve to have people who love you around you, who are going to treat you in a way that lifts you up instead of brings you down. That's the most important message, I think, in this whole video, is that you may have relationships that are bringing you down, but that's okay. Just do your best to protect yourself from them, and separate yourself from them, and know that you deserve to not have those people in your life. You deserve to be happy and have good, loving relationships, and to grow as much as you can.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of an interesting situation. It's not that it's a necessity, but it's oftentimes a sign of growth, that the awakening is going to cause you to feel more of a natural and healthy entitlement to relationships that reciprocate what you put into.
Mm-hmm.
And that's good, obviously, but the challenging component is that sometimes that requires a breakup, a change, a letting go. But it's crucial, because you empaths, all you people know the actual physical effects of a relationship that is a mismatch. It sucks out you got to really preserve your creative. Just like Oprah said, me and her we saw this awesome the quick little Oprah snippet, and the way she put it was that you really, if you want to be happy and successful and have a good life, you have to really learn to channel your inner spirit,
mm-hmm.
your fire, and as you awaken, you get more of that fire at your disposal. But if you allow other people to suck it out of you all the time, then you're not going to be able to. You need that fire, that flame, to create the life that you feel you're deserving of and want to do. And it's just sometimes it's just, you got to do it. It's one of the, it's not an easy path, the path to enlightenment, the path of success, the path to happiness. And it involves, we live in a world full of a lot of negative people, and sometimes it requires you just really standing up for yourself in an uncomfortable way, like she did with her mom. That must not have been easy, but it was like, she just had enough. It's like, I deserve to freaking be happy. No more of this.
Exactly.
Something I'd like to add real quick is that one of the things that can cause a relationship that you could say is past its expiration date to stay, to linger, is the insistence on seeing the other person's potential, seeing who they could be, or seeing who they are, rarely, randomly, sometimes, like, oh yeah, that's why I'm their friend, or that's why I'm blah, blah, blah. But the reality is that we always are fluctuating, you know, and it's, you got to also look at the evidence, because that kept me in a multiple unbalanced relationships for a long time, as I would see the potential in the person. But then 95% of the time I was leaving the interaction drained, disappointed, my needs weren't getting met, and I just felt like it was like I was doing all the work. So you relate with that?
I can relate with that, yeah. And I also agree that it is important to be honest with yourself, you know, when that's actually happening, because you know, sometimes it's an unconscious thing that you're doing to maintain a friendship, because it's easier to stay in a relationship that doesn't serve you, a friendship that doesn't serve you, when you're like, well, you know, sometimes they, you know, are the way that I want to be treated. Sometimes they do that, you know, nicely or whatever. And so you can justify that, but it's important to be honest about how often does that actually happen, and you know, are you I don't know,
lying to yourself?
Yeah, are you lying to yourself? You know, I guess it's the same thing, being honest and lying, or opposites.
Yeah, and fortunately, the awakening will help you clarify this. It tends to give you pretty obvious situations. It's like, now we're at a point where, like, if you're hanging around a person or situation that's not a match for you, it's going to become very obvious. There'll be signs that you really got to remain in quite a state of denial to stick around too long. So doesn't have to be super confusing. If this resonates, you'll know.
Yes, exactly. It's most of the time something that you just you can no longer ignore the reality of the situation, because it just becomes so physically and emotionally draining to be around that person that you have no choice but to just say, I just can't anymore, so now I have to find a solution to this.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, so I think we'll end with just sort of like the acknowledgement that this is not an easy situation. A lot of times, I think humanity as a whole, me too, you know, we all have the tendency to look for like the perfect solution, the magical, easy, like fairy tale solution. This is not a situation that proves that life is not always easy, because there's drawbacks to this. It can be painful, it can be sad, you can miss them, they can miss you, they can be a little confused, but at the end of the day, I think most of you will find what we have found is that it's your desire, you're on such a strong pursuit with such momentum of becoming the best you can be. And the bottom line is, people have the tendency and the ability to hold you down. And even though it's a messy situation and not easy for either person sometimes, I think in the end you'll value your own happiness over staying miserable and halting this journey that you're being kind of pulled down.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, good.
Yes.
Cool. Okay, guys, I have these awesome video ideas coming up, man. I was going to shoot them today. Sorry, it's kind of an impromptu thing, because my voice, it's not cutting it. So thank you for bearing with me if you guys are still watching. We'll see you tomorrow, or at least I will. One of us, you know, mostly me.
Not one of us.
Not one
Either
of us.
him or maybe both of us.
I'll be there tomorrow. Hopefully my voice is better. If not, you'll see us both. Anyway, thank you guys for everything. Especially heard everyone saying nice things about you.
Oh, thanks guys for all the nice comments. He just tells me I don't read any of the comments or anything, but he tells me you guys say nice things about me, so thank you. I appreciate all your nice comments.
Yeah, you choose to because you don't want to let it go to your head. Like,
exactly.
Like all the comments, the nice things, it's gone way to my head, right?
Yeah, I know. I think we might have to get another RV for his ego.
Yeah. So anyway, we don't want to be all like jokey for the next 5 minutes. We're gonna bounce. Peace, guys. Have an amazing day. Thank you for watching. We'll see you soon. Namaste. Okay, guys, real quick, there is something I wanted to add to this video, and it very well might make it so there's no clear message that can be taken from this, because relationships are pretty complex. So with everything I said, I would highly recommend you also be quite discerning of your own motives and reasoning for why you want to sever off a relationship, and also how to do it. I'll give you an example that'll kind of illuminate what I'm talking about. So when I was living in South Florida many years ago, right when I started my Ascension, and I was real sensitive, you know, I was going and doing this sensory deprivation therapy, like a sensory deprivation tank, this float therapy. I was going once a week to this one guy, and he's a guru guy. He's like a spiritual teacher dude. You know, I didn't go there for that, but we'd always talk and stuff, and I just went there to float at his house. And one time I went there, and it was like one of those times where I was like in my zone. I don't know, I was like meditating in the car in my mind on the way there, and when I got there, I was like, I got one of those glimpses of like where I was like almost like channeling my higher self anyway. But it triggered this guy. Yeah, I could tell, because he's a teacher and I'm like the student. I could tell it triggered him, and it made him act real kind of weird towards me, and kind of like negative. He was almost like I won't get into it, but he kind of like was belittling me a little bit, because I could tell he was triggered. Anyway, so I caught one glimpse of this guy's ego, you know, and I immediately, because I was so sensitive to everything, this guy, when he was like acting differently, the experience of that was so like intense, almost like he was some creepy, crazy, awful, negative guy, when that wasn't the case. It was just, again, my perception of his ego flaring was a very intense experience because I was so sensitive. So what I did is it like creeped me out, because it never happened before, you know, with this guy anyway. So I went in there, I did my float. I didn't even freaking like get into it. I was just like waiting for it to be over, and I left, and I never talked to him again. I thought, I don't want this guy in my life, you know. So I was very, very quick about it. And it was unfair to me, because it's not like my ego never flares. I'm pretty imperfect too. And if everyone left me because I had one bad day like that, then I'd have 0 people in my life. So that's a regret I have, and I haven't spoken to him since. If I could have gone back, I would have been a little more understanding that, you know, we all have a bad day. So again, with everything we said, the awakening can really make people's egos seem meaner and more obnoxious than they actually are. It's just our perception is we're so sensitive. Eventually things kind of die down, and I've learned in the end, a lot of the people I've kind of cut off, low vibration people, I'm going back, and frankly, ironically, I'm having lunch with a lot of them, and I'm going to hang out with a lot of people from my past. Because I'm in Michigan now visiting, and it's different, because it's not that I think part of the problem is trying to make them be who I want them to be. I don't have the expectations that they're going to be like some like high vibration, perfectly soulmate-y type of relationship. But I can accept them for who they are and still have an enjoyable experience, as long as my expectations are in sync and realistic. And I can just, through allowance and allowing them to be who they are, I can have maybe a lighter, more infrequent type of meeting, type of relationship with them, and that's still okay, and that's still pleasant. Again, some relationships I hung on too long to my own detriment. Other ones I cut off too abruptly. So you really got to be kind of wise when people's feelings are involved. So I know, again, I didn't really tell you anything. It's just a bunch of my own mistakes and my wife's. But just really, just give yourself the time to contemplate. what the best action to take is, and always go on a case-by-case basis, never just make a generalization. So anyway, guys, good luck. This is no easy situation for any of us. I understand that. I gotta bounce. I got some hockey to play here, and I gotta have a little bit of voice left. So I'll talk to you tomorrow. Hopefully my voice will be 100%. Even slightly better will be a drastic improvement. See you next time. Peace.